It's Monday, the 18th of March. Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. Thank you for joining us as we track a tropical cyclone in Australia and high pressure moving into New Zealand. Let's kick off with the animated wind map. This is the main feature for the New Zealand area, this big high. It's also driving in wet weather along the eastern side of Australia and the eastern side of New Zealand, but most places in New Zealand are dry. To the north, three tropical lows. This is the Cyclone Megan, severe category 3 when we recorded this video on Monday morning. Another low over here, a tropical low that may well become a tropical cyclone as well, although these two systems, since our last recording about Australia, have done the old switcheroo. Last week we thought this one would be the major cyclone and this one would not, and because they're both borderline, this is the one that's now turned into a severe storm, although very short-lived. And then we've got another low out here, for now not a concern, and more low pressure, all of it going around this big high. So let's kick off with the Australian storm. Here is Cyclone Megan. This is 10 o'clock this morning in Northern Territory time or Darwin time. So you can see it's already made landfall at that point. The other storm offshore from Port Hedland and Karratha, that is not at this stage expected to make landfall, but it could still drive in some wet weather. Not a huge amount though. And then the other low pressure system out here in the Coral Sea area for now doesn't seem to be posing a threat. So let's take a closer look. This is where we'll be at 10 o'clock this morning. Borroloola is the main centre nearest to where the storm's coming in. Population lower than 1,000 people. There are a few communities around this area, hopefully plenty of time to get out of the way. This is a very low-lying area, so flooding will be the main concern, especially with the main river that comes through Borroloola. Now the main winds, the worst of the winds, right over the top of that township, by about 10 o'clock this morning, if not already starting right now as we recorded this, which was a couple of hours earlier. Worst of those winds going around the centre, the storm's tracking inland, and rainfall-wise over the next couple of days, this line right here in the middle, 300 millimetres plus. So that's a lot of rain coming through all the way to Tennant Creek and beyond. This is only just for the next 2 days. It goes further afield as it falls apart. And you can also see the offshore storm here not driving in the dangerous rain that we talked about the other day that was a possibility, but still seeing plenty of showers lining up for Western Australia. Let's get it over to New Zealand now, although we are still talking about Eastern Australia with the wet weather you see here this evening. But let's track this high for the next 48 hours as it moves in across New Zealand, over the South Island in particular. And then by Wednesday evening, it's parked to the southeast. That encourages a milder airflow coming back down again after the cooler airflows we've had over the past few days. And here is the next cold front connected to Sydney by Wednesday evening, not arriving into the lower South Island until we get to Thursday. So let's get back in now to the air pressure maps to make a bit more sense of what we're talking about. Here's Tuesday morning. Here is that big high crossing over the South Island. Few showers remain around the eastern North Island. One or two of those will come up around into the Bay of Islands area and Northland. Otherwise dry in most places. The southeasterly wind, usually quite sunny for some of these western areas. And over here on the other side, Brisbane all the way down to about Canberra, and not so much inland for Canberra, but more getting over to the coastal side of the New South Wales area. That's where you're starting to see some of those wet showers, some of the wet weather sliding down along that coastline. So that's what we're monitoring just there. But otherwise, many places are dry. The high is really the dominating feature, and much of that wet weather is offshore. So by Wednesday, the offshore rain around Australia merges with the cold front. And so you start to see a more active cold front, thunderstorms through this system, much colder change coming in for Tasmania. On the New Zealand side, high pressures in control, so a cool morning, a mild afternoon, and showers continue around the eastern side of the North Island, maybe one or two coming in with that northwesterly over on the west coast. So rainfall-wise, for the next 48 hours in New Zealand, most of it is along the eastern side. Heaviest rain and showers will be in northern parts of Hawke's Bay, 20, maybe 25 millimetres for you. Elsewhere, not seeing very much, 1, 2 to 5 millimetres in the mix. Maybe a couple more showers just coming through here around Kaikoura. All right, by Thursday, warm nor'westers coming in for many places. Not super warm, but just warmer than it's been. High pressure still somewhat over the North Island. We've got a big low out here well to the east. That's encouraging more of a windy southeasterly around the Chatham Islands and just clipping East Cape. You might get a shower, you probably won't, but if you do, it's certainly not going to be much. Now by Friday, some low pressure moves in across the country. There's that weak front coming out of Australia, very, very weak. We just see a few showers coming in for the top of the country and some around the top of the South Island. That'll be very welcome around places like Nelson and Marlborough. Hopefully it lines up just right for where you are. And as we go into the weekend, it dries back out for Nelson and Marlborough as the southwesterly flow returns to New Zealand. Another weak cold front down here for Fiordland, Southwestland and Southland. And then into Sunday, the windy westerlies of autumn. They come roaring back over Tasmania and over the lower part of the South Island. More of a south to southwesterly for the North Island, couple of showers. But this is the main feature, high pressure stretching all the way from Perth to Auckland. Now up in the tropics as we go into the weekend, a lot of low pressure still up here, places like Weipa and over towards Cairns seeing some rain. Otherwise, it's not looking too stormy, apart from a few thunderstorms near Alice Springs. That's all from me. Don't forget tomorrow, Tuesday, we've got our next Pacific-wide update. We'll look for any other storms around the Pacific. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow.